funny because this is actually the most difficulty I have ever had putting a talk together. This past week was so heavy and so painful, and I've been feeling helpless and hopeless and like I'm going backward in my spiritual journey because, let me tell you, my vibration is not high. It has not been high, and it seems to be slipping in the wrong direction. And it just all seems so futile. Like every time I make peace with how it is, oh, here's a new thing for you to deal with. And I feel like I can't fix this. What can one person do in the face of this? I talked to my guides about it, and I said, you guys, I cannot get up there on Sunday morning and be Sister Mary Joy and Light. I just can't do it. Not with everything that's going on. What am I going to talk about? And I didn't get an immediate answer, which was par for the course, given how the week was going. But a couple of hours later, while I was researching something for my daily job, totally unrelated, I came across the phrase, a more perfect union, in a news article. And my guide said, you might want to read that. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That is the preamble to our Constitution. I was today years old when I learned that the Constitution was not adopted until 1788. I clearly did not pay attention in civics class, since I thought it sprang magically into being around the time of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. But in fact, the first 12 years of our nation were filled with deep divisions and seemingly impassable conflicts among the 13 colonies. Each of them wrote and adopted their own constitution. Well, we're Delaware, and we're going to do it this way. And it took 5 years until 1781 to get to a point where they could agree on enough common ground to adopt a shared vision called the Articles of Confederation. Another 7 years of clashing viewpoints and bitter arguments followed until the Constitution was finally ratified on July 2nd, 1788. And that is why the preamble to the Constitution says, in order to form a more perfect union. The founding fathers and mothers behind every great man is a great woman, or 2 or 10. They understood that this new form of government would have to evolve if it was to survive. And the Articles of Confederation were a start, but they weren't enough. And so after a long gestation period and a very difficult labor, our Constitution was born. George Washington famously described the establishment of this new government as the last great experiment for promoting human happiness by reasonable compact in civil society. In 1776, nearly every nation in the world was ruled by a monarchy. A king, an emperor, whatever. It was a single leader who had complete control. every country in the world. The idea of a republic where power is held by the people and their elected representatives was unheard of. The United States' creation of a Republican government was a revolutionary act simply because it was so uncommon. Today, roughly 50% of the nations in the world are governed by some form of democracy. That's a pretty spectacular change in just 250 years. And it all started with just a few people with a crazy idea. Democracy was not born easily, and it has faced one crisis after another. Today, once again, we are living through a time of turbulence in its evolution. Consider this letter written by a U.S. president. I see in the near future a crisis approaching that unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. As a result of this conflict, corporations have been enthroned and an era of corruption in high places will follow. And the money power of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working on the prejudices of the people until all wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the republic is destroyed. Sound familiar? Sound timely? That letter was written by Abraham Lincoln in 1864. In his Gettysburg Address, Lincoln said, 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. He finished his brief 2-minute speech by saying, we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. This country has been challenged in its growth and survival from day one until today. But we are still here. And we, the people, are the key to it all. I'd like to share a few pertinent quotes from We, the People. That government is strongest of which every man feels himself a part. Thomas Jefferson. Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others. Winston Churchill. The experience of democracy is like the experience of life itself, always changing, infinite in its variety, sometimes turbulent and all the more valuable for having been tested in adversity. Jimmy Carter. There is nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed with what is right in America. Bill Clinton. Nobody makes a greater mistake than he who does nothing because he could do only a little. Edmund Burke. Believe me, your ideas count. An individual can make a difference. George Herbert Walker Bush. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. I will not refuse to do the something I can do. Helen Keller. But what can one person really do? I mean, really. That all sounds so nice, doesn't it? But really. In the mid-1400s, a child was born among the Huron Indians in what is now upstate New York. His name was Dekanawida. On reaching manhood, he explained to his mother the mission on which the Great Spirit had sent him, which was to bring the good news of peace and power to all men, to show them how to make their desire for peace and justice effective by union under civil authority. After crossing Lake Ontario alone in a canoe, like you do, Dekanawida came to the country of the Onondagas and sought out a notorious murderer, a deeply depressed wandering man whose family had been wiped out by the Onondagas chief. Despite the vengeful rage in the wanderer's heart, Dekanawida convinced him to choose forgiveness and accept the vision for peace. Together, these two laid plans for a campaign to bring neighboring nations into a peaceful confederacy. Amazingly, they succeeded in bringing the Mohawks, Oneidas, Cayugas, and Senecas together in this vision. But the great obstacle was Atataro, the Onondaga chief who had killed the wanderer's family. He was known as a hideous tyrant whose body had 7 crooks in it and whose hair was a tangle of live snakes. You shall be called Hiawatha, meaning he who combs. And when the time came, Dekanawida laid his hands on each of the 7 crooked places in Atataro's body and straightened them, while Hiawatha combed the snakes from his hair. And Atataro agreed that the Onondagas would join the peace. So the Iroquois 5 Nations Confederacy was born, becoming the 6 nations when the Tuscarora joined in 1722, and it has endured to this day. Many of our early colonists were strongly influenced by the Iroquois Confederacy, notably Thomas Paine, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson. In 1988, the U.S. Congress formally recognized the contributions of the Iroquois Confederacy, noting that the confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy, as were many of the democratic principles which were incorporated into the Constitution itself. And that, my friends, is what one person or 2 people working together can do. So why am I talking about all this in church? Am I violating the sanctity of the separation of church and state? I think not. We are the people of America, and we are the people of the light. We are way showers. We are the lighthouses on a rocky shore on a dark and stormy night. We believe God is in everyone and in everything. We believe we create our own reality with our thoughts. We believe we are here in this physical world to develop our spirituality. We believe we are channels of healing for a world in need. I submit to you that it is time to walk our talk, not only for ourselves, but for our fellow Americans. While the separation of church and state is essential to modern democracy, public life is not, and truly cannot be, empty of spirit. We can and we should put our beliefs to work to strengthen and heal our society. What can we do to make this a reality? I mean, really, what can we do? We can demonstrate essential virtues, such as courtesy, equality, trust, and empathy. The qualities of the person become the qualities of the nation. We can heal divisions with compassion, inspiring people to lead with their hearts and use words to invite togetherness rather than division, to love and respect their opponents and acknowledge the shared humanity of all people. We can speak truth to power. Throughout history, religious organizations and individuals with strong spiritual and moral convictions have been an effective resistance against tyrannical governments and oppression. We can promote diversity. The concept of democracy supports emotional and spiritual flourishing and well-being by encouraging diversity and allowing for spiritual exploration. Spiritual voices can bring different values and needs into civil society that might otherwise be overlooked. And how do we actually do those things? Well, first of all, in all the little ways, treating people kindly every day, staying connected to source and true to our beliefs, coming together as a community to help each other and those in need. If you want to see a living example of how to do it, you saw one this morning. The mechanism was not working. All plans had gone astray. We could not see, we could not hear, we could not proceed on the path we had chosen. And one person raised her voice. And others joined in. And as Reverend Elaine said, that was the best part of it. So simple. The qualities of we, the people, become the qualities of our nation. And maybe we have some bigger possibilities too. Now, I warn you, I'm about to put you all on the spot. I'm going to ask you to think about some possibilities for action. And if you can think of one, no matter how crazy it sounds, I'm going to ask you to share it with us. Because really, could it be crazier than, hey, let's hang up a blanket and put on a show in the barn and call it democracy? First ever. Could it be crazier than let's go get 5, soon to be 6 warring nations to sign a peace treaty and it's just us 2 guys? It can't be crazier than that. And remember, we're connected to the mind of Source. Don't you suppose Source has some amazing ideas for things we could do? Let that flow into your mind and be brave enough to share it. Right here, right now. Now, in the interest of walking my talk, I'll share the idea that actually helped me pull this entire talk together. There's a little place called Denver, North Carolina. And for those of you who've been living under a rock for the past decade, that's Trump country. What if we reached out to a church in Denver, North Carolina, and said, we are your sister city? Now, as far as what church to reach out to, they have a bunch of them. Be surprised. I personally would lean toward the Denver United Methodist Church. partly because I was raised Methodist. Now I know they're a little bit open-minded. And honestly, because I'm afraid to talk to Baptists. I think that might be a bridge too far. But what if we asked them, as our brothers and sisters, as our fellow Americans, as our companions in the love of God, what if we asked them to be our prayer partners? And if we said we will all dedicate half an hour each week at a set time in our respective places, across state lines and blue lines and red lines and donkeys and elephants and everything else, we will dedicate a half an hour each week at a set time, and we will all pray together for the well-being of our people, our leaders, and our nation. What if by doing this, we could come to see each other as people instead of as Democrats or Republicans or liberals or conservatives? I would give a half an hour of my week every week to go to prayer and know that I'm praying with my brothers and sisters in Denver, North Carolina. And no matter what differences of opinion we may all hold, we are all praying for the same thing. And as we have learned in this church, when we all come together and aim our energy and our intention at something, amazing things happen. So that's my wild and crazy put on a show in the barn idea.